No. All right. I'm gonna trade you 2 sheep for that wood. Tell me, honey, does that sound good? 'Cause all I really wanna do is take away longest road from you, yeah. Welcome to these tabletop sessions. Welcome to these tabletop sessions. Hello, fellow gregarious geeks and gamers. Welcome to the 35th episode of the Tabletop Sessions podcast. This is your monthly dose of tabletop gaming stories and shenanigans. My name is Elias, and with me is the injectable, silicone and smooth Ippokratic.
Smooth overall. Hello, everybody. This is Ippo.
Did you get it? Did you get why I said injectable, silicone and smooth?
No, what is that? It's like
well, we're doing our top five. No.
Oh, it's a filler.
Filler, yeah.
God. Oh my God, injectable smooth. And I'm an engineer.
You're welcome. So how have you been, Ippo? Have you had any new games recently? Anything you want to talk about?
Well, the basic new game I had this month was Hegemony arrived from Kickstarter.
Nice.
But I have a lot to say about Hegemony later because we played it again, and we played it a third time.
Wow.
So I won't put it in the acquisition section. In the acquisition section, I just want to say that I have this beautiful WhatsApp group with other people living in the same compound with me. And, you know, people are, it's like a neighborhood thing where people are saying, oh, I ran out of sugar. Somebody, please give me some sugar. Can I? And somebody else says, oh, yeah, please come to apartment number 112. Yeah, I can give you some. So that's the spirit of the group. So at some point, there is this lady, and she clears her daughter's room. And she said, you know, she's old enough now. She's like 7-8 years old. So she doesn't need any more these little board games she has. And these little board games were like cat-themed games. So they're like, she posts the photos from the games, and one is like, you know, a game about a 4 years old, about a cat. Another game, board game, you know, something like a puzzle about 4 years old and themed with a cat. And the third game she posts is Exploding Kittens.
Oh wow.
So it looks like,
I mean, it is a cat game. So
yeah, but wrong. I mean, it was wrapped. They didn't even know what they had. It's like somebody maybe
she just wanted something with cats on it.
Yeah, exactly. Or somebody maybe just gave a gift. So they saw the cat. They thought, okay, she's a 4 years old. Let's give her this little game.
Oh, it was a 4-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point? So, and she was just giving them free because she didn't need them anymore. So I said, yeah, I can have Exploding Kittens. Thank you very much. So that's my proud acquisition of the...
That's terrible. You should give it back to her.
It's my best value for money game right now.
Well,
because its value for money ratio goes to infinity.
It's free. Yeah, it's infinite. Yeah. Well, as a grown adult and serious board gamer, I had more serious games, you know, in my acquisitions. I received the Kickstarter for Small City Deluxe Edition, which is Albin Viard, the guy who did Tramways and Clinic. And I'm so excited for it because one of the people in my group absolutely fucking hates small tramways. He thinks it's like, it's a game that makes people angry. I don't know what it is.
I agree with him. It's a strange game.
It's an amazing game. It's one of my favorite games ever. But it's not forgiving. If you make one mistake early, that's it. You know. So if you're one of those people that if you're not doing well, you get butthurt about things. You know, your first game ever, if you fuck up early on, you're fucked for 4 hours. You know, 3.5 hours. So yeah, I feel like if he gave it another chance, he'd like it. Probably not. It's a fun little joke that goes back and forth. But yeah, so I was excited. I was like, "Oh my God, look! Small City came out. You know, Carol, this is your favorite designer." And he goes, I'm not opposed to trying it. I will give him a chance to learn from his mistakes." So I got that. I'm excited.
What about Clinic? Does anybody has Clinic in your group?
I have Clinic.
You have Clinic.
I I have the Kickstarter editions of all three. I
Did you
really
play
like
it?
his stuff. I played it, yes, I loved it. But also it's a little unforgiving. First time we played, I took on a patient I couldn't handle, and they died, early in the game. And I played really well from that point on, and I could never make up that difference unless Dima. I was playing a 2-player game, unless Dima also made a mistake. But it's an excellent game. It's really fun, really great. It's a lot less serious than it looks. Like, it's a lot of fun,
Oh,
and the main thing with it is it's heavy on rules, but it's good. It's really fun, and
man,
it's
we
gonna
need a
stay in my
review. I mean,
collection.
our listeners, meaning
All
myself,
right, done.
they need a review.
I'll schedule a game of it so I can. Yeah, and the other things I sold recently, Fields of Arla, the Uwe Rosenberg game, 2-player farming game. And I sold Carpe Diem by Stefan Feld.
May I ask
So
why
those
did you
are out of the
sell Fields of Farl? I mean,
Somebody emailed me and was like, "Can I buy it?" And I looked at BGG, and people were selling it for ridiculous prices. So I felt wrong for him. So I was like, "All right, I'll sell it to you for a good price." So
and Dima doesn't play it
I
with you
sold.
anymore.
Well, no, it's not that. It's just like, when it comes to like a farming game, whenever we're like, "Oh, let's play a farming game," we always go to La Granja. Like, that
Really?
seems to be the go-to. Yeah, I think in general, I kind of fall out of love with worker placement games, because the same thing happened with. I loved Russian Railroads, then I sold it. Zolkin I loved, then I sold it. Viticulture is now on my for trade list. Fields of
Oh man,
Caverna, I loved it, then I
that's so
sold it.
interesting what you're saying right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I just kind of like, because it becomes kind of formulaic, because there's only so many options you can do. I kind of fall out of love with them after a few plays, but that's just me. I love Dominant Species, and that has worker placement, but it's more of an area control game. So it really depends on what the game is. And Carpe Diem is a good Stefan Feld game. It just, if we're going to play Feld, there's Trajan, Castles of Burgundy, Aquasphere that, I like better. So
It's
that's
funny
gone.
that you said that about worker placement, because this morning I was listening to a ludology podcast from 2012 where they have invited the designer of Twilight Struggle.
Okay.
And he says that he thinks that the success of his game is because he found a place between war games and Euro games. Because he says if you play, a lot of Euro games, at some point, and he loves Euro games, at some point they look samey to you.
Yeah.
And this is kind of what you said with like worker placement. It's no, not worker placement anymore. But again, this was an evaluation of him of the board game background in 2012. So today it's completely different. But at that time it was mainly worker placement, I guess.
No, I mean, it's true. Like, it's a lot of games can feel samey, and that's okay. Like, I don't feel like I didn't get satisfaction out of Russian Railroads. I really loved Russian Railroads, and when we played it, I really liked it. And then at some point, it just became like, all right, everyone knows, turn one, get an engineer. If you don't get an engineer, get a ruble, so that you can then get first place and then go for engineer next turn. And it was like, okay, we get it. Like, this is this is how to play this game. Like,
Okay, we can do that, yeah.
I don't dislike that. I didn't feel like I was thinking that much anymore, and that's okay, but that's why basically I love them. I get them, I enjoy them, and then I sell them and get other stuff. I mean, I'm selling Fields of Arl, and from the money I'm selling Fields of Arl for, I'm buying Pax Hispanica. So it's almost like I'm trading, right? So I'm getting Pax Hispanica. I pre-ordered it, which is the new Pax game in the series of Pax Porfiriana, Pax Pamir, Pax Renaissance, Pax Emancipation, Pax Viking, which I have all of those. Pax Hispanica is basically, set in the 17th century, pirates in the Caribbean, setting up Tortuga, and you have Spanish, English, French, Dutch, Cornish. So it's interesting. It's interesting because it's a less serious topic than PAX games usually tend to be, either political struggle or religious struggle or.
So wait, is this a new game or is this an old game like reinvented?
Yeah, no, it's new. It's not out yet. I pre-ordered it. It's coming out later this year. So
interesting.
Once I get that, I'll be sure to report back on that because I'm excited to see how it does.
And I guess it uses the PAX mechanism with the cards and stuff.
Yes, exactly. So there will be a market system. I imagine there will be triggers for various endgame conditions. To be honest with you, I didn't look that much into it. I saw PAX, I saw pirates, I clicked buy. So.
Oh my God. What I wanted to, one other thing I wanted to say is that a few days ago, my daughter Phoebe was telling me that she really enjoyed when 3 years ago I have bought online a print and play version of an RPG game, Little Wizards. And it was, a short RPG for like 8 years old or something like that. And she still remembers that and she wants to play again an RPG. And I was thinking now she's 13, my other daughter is 11. I'm not sure if we should go directly to Dungeons and Dragons, what is there for teenagers in between. And I watched this Shut Up and Sit Down review about Alice is Missing, which is a very nice game. It looks like a very nice game. Of course, it's not for teenagers, it's for adults. The theme is about a girl missing and probably something horrible have happened to her. But what I realized
But you've raised your kids a little twisted anyway, so
that's true. What I realized is that there are RPGs out there that you can play in one night.
Yes, many.
Yeah, so I didn't know where to look at, and now I'm excited about searching and finding something.
I have a few of those actually. Fiasco. You play scenarios, and one night there's Dog Eat Dog, but these are topics I don't think kids will enjoy, or two be appropriate for. Dog Eat Dog is also a one night RPG. Dialect can be considered an
Dog
RPG.
Eat Dog again, sounds like a teenager's theme, no?
No, it's about imperialism and colonialization.
It just sounds like.
Yeah, it just sounds like it. There's no dogs in it, is what I'm saying. It's funny that you mentioned Alice is Missing. I have a story about Alice and Mrs. Missing. So late last year, we decided we're going to, me and my friends here are going to a cabin to play board games for the weekend. So we're on our way. And we've stacked the car full. There's 4 of us in the car. We're meeting someone there. The car is full of stuff. Their stuff, our stuff, food for the weekend. Of course, a ton of board games. And as we're driving, someone swerves into my lane. And I have to swerve a little bit to avoid them. And my rear wheel hits a pothole and goes flat. And so I pull off to the side. And I get out of the car and, I'm ready to change the tire and everything. And then for the first time since we bought our car in 2020, I realize that Teslas don't come with spare tires.
What?
So they don't have spare tires. You're supposed to call them and then they come and do whatever. So
they have a service.
Yes, I text them, but we're a little bit outside Toronto at this point. So I text them. And they're like, okay, no problem. We'll come tow your car to the service yard and give you another car. And then on Monday, you can pick up your car with a new wheel.
Give you another car, not give you a tire.
Yeah, here's the problem with that. The car is full of stuff and we're on our way to a cabin, right? So I'm like, yeah, that's not possible. Can we just change the tire now, put on a temporary, and then on Monday you can come to my house and change it? And they're like, yeah, no problem. But it's going to take...
I thought you were going to say they were like, no, you cannot do that to a Tesla. You need to install a software to change it.
So they're like, okay, no problem. We'll send someone over, but it's going to take 90 minutes to get to you. So I'm like, all right, I mean, there's no real option here, right? So while we're waiting for the guys, the Allison is missing story, we decide, why don't we play a board game? There's four of us plus my dog Dali in the car, and we're like, let's play a game. But what can we play that doesn't need a table? And we start going through, oh, what about Red 7? No, Red 7 needs someplace to play.
How many people were you?
Four of us.
Okay.
And we're like, Red 7, we thought about the middle pile. We're like, that's easy. But then you all have to have a tableau, so that's not possible. So then I was like, oh, what can we do? And then Chen goes, oh, I have Alice is Missing. And we're like, oh, amazing.
Oh my
but
God.
None of us know how to play the game. So we load up on the Tesla screen. There's like a YouTube video that like runs the game. So we load it up on there and we start to set it up to playing. But then they start talking about cards and I don't know what. And we're like, all right, this is not possible. But we all got super excited being like in the middle of nowhere in a broken down car about to play Alice is Missing. And it didn't work out. In the end, we just played Takinoko on Board Game Arena. And that was it.
Okay,
But,
challenge accepted. Top 5 games to play in a test
when your
line in the
car's
middle of
broken.
nowhere.
That's the next one for sure. All right. Well, let's move on to what we have been playing, not what we almost played. Before I let you jump in, Ippo, I know I promised everybody Frosthaven and Gloomhaven digital comparison. It's still coming. The problem is I only got one play of each in the last month because life happened, kids, life, award ceremonies. I had to cancel a Gloomhaven night because I had to attend an award. Well, digitally attend an award ceremony I was nominated for. I didn't win, and
A podcast from the award. What is that? Award nominee.
exactly audio
Elias
award
Khalil.
nominee Elias Khalil. Yeah, no, I was nominated, but I did not win, unfortunately. But yeah, so life got in the way. So I only got one session of each in, and I don't feel like I'm ready to do it. So hopefully next session that will be coming. So what have we actually been playing, Ippo?
I have been playing Hegemony. Lead your class to victory. Okay, this is a game that I kickstarted 18 months ago. So I guess 1 year and a half is good for a kickstarting campaign to wait 1 year and a half.
For sure.
It's a game by Vangelis Bagiartakis and Varnavas Timotheou, who is an economist. Okay, Vangelis
Did you back
Bagiartakis.
this because they were Greek designers?
Not at all. I don't like Greeks.
No,
But
we have
I
to
like this.
cancel the whole episode.
To be honest, Vangelis Bagiartakis is a guy that I met first time in Essen, where he was selling kitchen rush. Remember, that was 5 years ago?
This is the guy who did Kitchen Rush?
Yes.
Fuck, I love Kitchen Rush, man.
Yeah.
I love Kitchen Rush.
And I got the game from Vangelis himself. So he collaborated with an economist. The guy is an economist that I learned in London School of Economics or something, I don't know. And the game comes with a concept book where he explains how the economic theory is depicted in this game and what were the options and what were their choices they made while designing the game.
Now, what the fuck?
So I
book on economics? Are you fucking serious?
I mean, I love this shit, and it looks like there are plenty of people that love this shit.
Sure.
I mean, I'm very excited.
I suppose economic theory is a little more exciting than actual economics, though. It's
yeah, I mean, it doesn't go into the depths, It's like, okay, there are classes like basic Marxist theory. So it's the working class, the capitalists, and the middle class, and
okay.
There is a class between each other, and this is an asymmetric game where each one of you is gonna play the capitalist, the working class in a two-player game. In a three-player game, yeah. So in a three-player game, the middle class comes in, and in a four-player game, there is a fourth player who plays the state. Which is an interesting concept. I guess they couldn't have a fourth player, and the fourth player is basically the state, where the state is kind of balancing out the other three, And what they're trying to do is trying to gain legitimacy from each of these classes. So they need to help the classes. And I guess it's better if you're the state and you're trying to win the game, because it's a victory points game. Whoever gets the most victory points in the end wins the game. So I guess it's better for you, if you're the state, to help the player with the least points. So it is also a balancing mechanism at the same time.
I love when a game makes me a balancing mechanism. That's a nice
It's
feeling.
weird. It's weird. I played as the state in my last game, and it was weird.
But I have a quick question then. Sorry, you played I saw you sent pictures of you playing a 5-player game. So
yes, there was a 5-player game where AK was just looking at us
for the whole time.
Yeah, he's a hero. I think
that's incredible.
I think he liked the game though. And also Chris was there, it was a gathering after so many years. We haven't seen Chris.
Yeah, you got an actual economist to play the game with you. That's nice.
And he also have backed the game. And he told me that his copy is already
waiting for him in Holland.
Waiting for him in Netherlands, yes. So the first time I played the game, the game comes with some automas. It's a deck of cards where you can play the game solo. And it's very nice and fun at the same time. They have 3 different automas decks, one for each faction, so you can play any of the factions, and you can play against the automas. So that was good. It's not. I won't recommend it as a solo game, but it's really very nice to learn the game and see how it works. And what I loved about this game is that it really opens a discussion about these things. And I cannot emphasize enough how thematic it is. I mean, you are the capitalist, you are really trying to do things, you're trying to get the state in your favor, you're trying to pass policies that are in favor, you try to minimize the minimum wage policy, you're trying to minimize the taxes. The other factions are trying the opposite. Sometimes you can take them in your side by promising them something. Sometimes you cannot. I mean, it's great. It was 5.5 hours, 5.5 hours in the first 2 games I played. Actually, the first game I played was 5.5 hours. So it was 1 hour of teaching, and the rest was a 3-player game. And the last time we played, I think, from 7:30 up to 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
So people were
really.
You
sent a picture and said the waiters were just waiting for you guys to finish up so they could close the restaurant or the cafe.
Yeah, then I realized it's also their Ramadan times, because we have Ramadan here. It's they close 2 o'clock in the morning. So we were lucky on that. I thought they were closing like 1 o'clock and they were just waiting for us. But no, apparently they were not so kind.
What kind of game is it? Like, what do you like? What's the main mechanism?
So there are 5 rounds. In each round, you draw from your deck, and these cards, they have actions that you can do, and it's your choice to do one of the cards action or one of the basic actions.
Okay, all right.
So there are 5. You play 5 of your cards in each round. So in total, you're gonna play 5 times 5, 25 cards, 25 actions. Mm-hmm. And in addition to your basic actions, you can do each time one free action. So basically, the capitalists are making companies, and they open slots for working class workers to come and work and get their salary, or middle class workers to go there and get the salary. The working class is trying to get this money and gain prosperity for their people. And they're gaining prosperity by consuming services like education or healthcare, or by buying luxury goods or what was the fourth? Or food. No, sorry, food is.
I thought you were going to say. The winning condition for the working class is to become the upper class.
No, that's another concept for I guess for many other games.
It's called the American Dream, baby.
No, in this game they're just trying to by consuming the healthcare, education, and luxury goods to gain prosperity and have happy people. So, as the designer describes it, it's not that that each class plays against the other classes. Is what player plays his class in the most efficient way. Because it's an asymmetric game, so we're measuring the efficiency of your actions by victory points. So that's the idea. So the working class is going to buy this healthcare, education, and luxury by four different sources. They can buy it from the companies of the capitalist. So the capitalist will gain money from the working class gaining prosperity, or from the companies of the middle class, or from state-owned companies. When we talk about healthcare, maybe there are in the game public hospitals or public universities, or they can import, but that's more expensive.
Okay. This is really interesting. First you had my attention, but now you have my interest. I would like to try this game.
And the best is to play the middle class, because middle class is trying to do both what the capitalists and the working class are doing. So they can make some companies, but small companies like bakery, where you have one middle class worker, so you are like the owner of the company, and you can hire one working class helper who is going to just boost the production of your company, of your shop. And at the same time,
make a company which is Uber driver / crypto trader.
And at the same time, they're trying to gain prosperity. But where the game is really played is when you are proposing a policy, a law to pass, and there are 7 different policies that you can choose from, and one is about taxation. Low, middle, or there are three ranks in each of these policies. So there are low, medium, or high taxation. There's free, middle range, or completely paid education and healthcare. So you can vote.
Got it.
Yeah. So if you are the capitalist, no, you want some money from the working class to be paid in these cases. No, but the working class wants free education and free healthcare. When you're the state, you're usually in the middle, but you're kind of like to get some money from the healthcare you are providing to the people. It's so interconnected. I mean, the best thing about this game is that the time flows, because whatever the other players are doing, you need to pay attention. It's not like a multiplayer solo where you don't really care what the other. No, it really affects you.
I like it. I like the sound. And honestly, just from you describing it, like the number of concepts and jokes and stuff and conversation topics that came to my head, like I just made the joke about free education, healthcare being
this comes
communist.
a lot.
And then immediately my head was like, who in their right mind is opposed to free healthcare? Like, how is that a political opinion to be like, let's deny healthcare to people? And then just like immediately I want to start a conversation about that. Like, exactly. Why do people have that perspective? So yeah, it's really cool. Yeah.
So it opens the discussion, because I mean, there is a huge debate about this, but I mean, as you say, who's against free healthcare? So I was the state in the last game, and I was against free healthcare.
Yeah, well, because
I need the money. If I don't have enough money, and I get a loan or a couple of loans, then the IMF comes in the country, and the country gets devastated. So I'm trying to avoid that.
You just described my childhood in Ghana. The IMF comes into the country, and the country gets devastated.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, in Greece,
you'll be declared HIPPIC, right? Highly
you can notice that the designers were Greeks, so the IMF comes.
It's true. They just went through some shit. Well, let's hope they come to Lebanon soon because it's really bad right now. Anyway, it sounds awesome. I would love to play that game sometime. And I didn't back it on Kickstarter, but maybe I can find someone who has, or maybe when you come or something. But it sounds really good.
And
I
I
think
think I think the game has not come yet to the Americas.
okay,
It's funny, but I think it's the only Kickstarter that arrived first in Qatar, and it's still not in the US or Canada.
well, it's about time. Parity is important in social economic theory. Anyway, it sounds more like socioeconomic theory, so more about the way groups of people act based on financial decisions. When you said
Exactly.
economic theory, I thought you were talking about like investment and stuff. So I
Oh,
immediately
again,
lost interest. Yeah,
not money. Yeah, no, it's not about this.
that sounds fucking amazing. Really, really cool. So
Thank you.
would you recommend it? I think you would, based on your conversation.
I think for now it's like a 9 out of 10 in my
Wow.
board game. So it's one of my top games. And for the last month, I'm not playing anything else.
Wow.
And today
Okay.
I was trying to arrange another game next week.
Very
So
cool. Very cool.
it's but again, I love this kind of shit. So if you're not in economic theory, if you don't like this, I mean, and it's a long game. I'm playing it in weekdays, but it's not really a weekday game. It's like, as I said, like
Sure.
6 hours for 4 players.
Yeah.
So yeah, so there are these problems that they might be problems for your group of gamers.
And if you are that kind of person that doesn't like a long game and doesn't like socioeconomic theory as a theme, get out.
Go and play football.
I'm, I'm kidding. You're entitled to be wrong. That's completely fine. Anyway, so I also recently played a long ass game. I got another game of Dominant Species in, and this is a Chad Jensen game from GMT from 2010. You all probably know about it. Art was done by it's GMT. Who cares? Anyway, so I don't know if you remember this game, Ippo. Of course, you've played it multiple times, but we haven't played it since that game we played at our house in Qatar, where Dima almost flipped the board on me. Remember
Me
that?
neither.
Well, yeah, I left, but well, no,
I
we
haven't
did
played
play
it.
Dominant Species Marine online, if you
Oh yeah.
remember. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't. It's a very heavy game, so I don't want to go into too much detail. But basically, there's like a sort of a display of possible actions. You kind of do worker placement. You're kind of action drafting more than anything,
I
and
was
then
gonna say you just said you're not gonna play more worker placement games.
I didn't. I didn't. I said I get tired of worker placement games, but
So that was
this
the
game
last
is.
one.
It's not like that. It's not like you play something, get 2 coins. Everything you do, there's no. I mean, it's just telling you what you're going to be doing on the main board, but what you actually do, it's still your decision. So I wouldn't call it a worker placement game. I'd say you're drafting actions to do two forms of area control. Basically, the main concept of the game is there's two kinds of control. There's having majority control, which is just having the most species in an area, versus being dominant, which is having the being adapted to the area you're in the best. So having the most adaptation multiplied by abundance, whatever. Just basically being this food source is present here. Well, I eat that food source the most, so I'm going to be most dominant here. It's a wonderful game. It's mean as all get out. I'm sure we've talked about it in the past. We don't need to go too much into it. Basically, we played a 4-player game. It was supposed to be 5, but we had a last minute pullout, and everyone had learned the game. So we were like, all right, let's do it. So we randomized the pieces, and we ended up playing with no arachnids or insects, which is the first time I've played without those two. Especially insects, because they tend to populate the board a lot. So it was interesting not having as many species as usual on the board. Like nobody ran out of species from their gene pool. It was the first time I've seen in this game. So part of what happens is there's an ice age occurring, but you do have some control over the direction that the glaciation occurs in, and it can be pretty devastating if it comes at the wrong time. And it's the slowest action in the game. It's the only action that there's only one happening of every round of the game. And it was amazing because you place tokens, you place action pawns to basically take future turns of when glaciation's up. So you know who's going to control glaciation as time goes by. And it's the first time I've ever seen glaciation being used as a negotiation tactic in this game.
How?
So we basically just said, well, as you can see, in 2 turns, I'll be controlling glaciation. So maybe you don't go in my direction because retribution will be swift and terrible. So it's like kind of being like, if you don't glaciate this way, I won't glaciate this way. And it was very interesting because there was a ton of negotiation happening in this game, which I've played the game a bunch and I've never had real negotiation happen. So I've had pleading and people being like, why are you attacking me? Attack him instead. But there was negotiation this time, which was very interesting.
It's so interesting how different groups have different experiences with the same game.
Completely. And so the main question I guess you all want to ask is, did Dima flip the table this time? And the answer is no, she didn't. And she had a great time. So she's maturing.
Because we know
as a
that
person.
Dima is this kind of person that flips the table every time.
She literally threatened to flip the table last. Anyway.
I don't remember flipping the table.
No, she didn't flip, but she was like, she put her hand on the board and she was like, I'm going to wipe this board. And I was like, what the fuck? We've been playing for 4 hours. Anyway, and another interesting thing on that topic of having like different people impact games differently. So the guy I was talking about last time that wins all the games, Chang, he was playing and he won. But it's the first time I've seen several things happen. One, he ran out of domination cones. Like, I have never seen... I've seen people run out of species because your species die and they don't go back into your gene pool. But he ran out. He was so dominant. We had no more tokens for him to mark how dominant he was on the world map. And literally on the bonus board, when you're scoring domination at the end, it just goes 9+. He had 11. So like he went past the 9, so he only scored for 9 or higher. So I've never seen that happen.
Did he win?
Yeah. But part of the reason that
he was
happened,
the dominant species.
Well, obviously, but part of the reason that the domination thing happened is it's also the first time I've seen some bit of luck affect the game. I think he would have won in either case, but he started as the amphibians, and the amphibians have kind of the lamest power. They start with 3 water adaptation tokens. So they're very good at surviving in water. But usually people will get a couple more tokens early in the game, and they'll take away your advantage. The problem is, in the entire game, which I think was 5 or 6 rounds, no water elements showed up in either the adaptation or the abundance boxes when we were pulling. So therefore, there was nothing in Wasteland and there was nothing in Depletion, which means nobody could adapt to be dominant in water, and nobody could remove water from the board to reduce his domination. So he was just discovering with Wanderlust and pulling water tokens, and then being able to survive there, and nobody else could really survive there as dominant as he could. So it's the first time that I've seen the luck of the pull of the draw play an effect on the game, which is very interesting. I wouldn't say it was a luck game. Like, there was probably still a lot we could do that we just didn't know what to do, but it was very interesting. And another thing, so, this is going to be a consistent story here. It was the first time Cheng plays the game, and he didn't just get the highest score. He got the top score that anyone has ever got in our games of dominant species. He destroyed the highest score ever by like 30 points, which was you, Ippo. And it's the same thing that he did with 1846. Is the first time we played 1846, he'd never played an 18xx game ever. And then he beat our highest score, which I think was, again, you, Ippo, by like almost $1,000, like $700 to $1,000. Like, the guy is another level altogether.
The guy is the dominant species in every game, not just in dominant species.
That's right, he is. He's the dominant railroad baron and the dominant species. So I loved it. I had a great time. You all know Dominant Species is definitely in my top 15. It's an incredible game. It was nice. It was mean, but nobody took things personally. And the game itself is just kind of cruel, you know? And even though a bit of luck showed up, I think for next time I'm going to be more aware of, you know, if the first couple rounds go by and certain tokens are missing from the game, to be more aggressive on, say, Wanderlust, which is exploring new tiles, so that I can make sure to steal the elements that help somebody else. Like, I've never had to think about it that way, because usually you can adapt to exist and to survive in their areas, or you can remove those from the board through depletion or wasteland. So there was a new element that I discovered to the game this time that the luck element brought out. So I really had a great time. It was really fun. I came in second. I got my highest score ever and then lost by like 60 points. So
60 points.
It was bad. He almost lapped the person who came in fourth around the board. Like, the board is a 100-point thing, and he almost lapped somebody, which means he almost had 100 points more than the last place person. We had a great time. We took a break in the middle, went and had lunch at this Hong Kong street food place next to my house, and we just made a day of it and had a great time. So I will constantly recommend Dominant Species. Not if you're too sensitive about a game being mean, maybe give this one a miss. But if you're okay with the fact that the game doesn't hold your hand, Dominant Species will always be a game I recommend.
You said it's in your top 15. I think I have said before that it's in my top 3. And at some point we had this top 3 games for a 3-game collection, and I included it. And I said that if I had just one game that I should play every day for the rest of my life, it should be Dominant Species.
That's right. You had John Company, Age of Steam, and Dominant Species. Good picks.
Really? Okay, I don't remember that. Okay.
I had it in my top 10, Dominant Species, but it just got knocked out like a year ago by the Great Zimbabwe. So I would say it's like 11 or 12. Like, when I say top 15, it's just because I didn't know. It's somewhere, like, it's one of my favorite games ever. So, yeah, highly recommend. And I don't know about it being one of only 3 games in your collection, because again, sometimes you don't want the game to like kick you in the ass the whole time, you know. But but it's excellent, and I had a great time getting my ass kicked by both the game and Cheng, the Dominant Species.
By the way, you reminded me now that you said that the first had double the points of the last. This is exactly what happened in our 4-player Hegemony game, with Diego as the middle class ending up with 102 points, and Basel as the capitalist, he ended up with 51.
Oh, shit.
But they had this kind of agreement, Diego and Chris, where the middle class and the working class were not buying anything from the capitalists. They were like for the capitalists, the only way out were to export their goods. So they were even exporting for very cheap, you know, and they couldn't make real money.
What you're saying is, we figured out that if the middle class and the working class work together, we can topple the capitalists. All right,
but at the end they cannot both win, so just the middle class won. So this is also a lesson for
as usual, the working class
revolutionaries.
Fantastic.
Anyway, one more game that I played. It's a game that it's funny. I checked out, and we're playing this game once every year for the last 4 years. And this is Oath, Chronicles of Empire and Exile from Cole Wehrle. I think we have talked about this game before. I'm not sure if we did. I mean,
sure.
We have actually the owner of the game is inviting another 5 people, and we play a 6-player game, which is the maximum you can play with this game. It's a Call of World game that reminds a little of Root. It's not really an asymmetric game. So each player might be different things, like the king. One of the players is the king of a kingdom, and another player might be a citizen, so in the side of the king, and the rest are against. They are the rebels. They are against the status quo. And I have only played this game as a 6-player game, so this is something I need to say, because the game might play differently with 4 or 5 players, and it looks like
I was going to say it's 70% not recommended. It's
exactly
on BGG. Okay.
And I'm gonna say that I can assume why they're not recommending it with 6 players, because in my experience there was a lot of king making in this game, where I was the king, and I knew that there was another player that could win in the same round, and I did nothing to stop that, because I knew that there were 4 more players that they could do something to stop the winner. So that's a very weird concept for a game, but I guess this only happens in a 6-player game. So basically the game is a story-making game. At least this is what the designer said that he was trying to do. It uses locations and certain cards, where the cards in the locations could be monsters or residents, and you can use these locations and cards to make actions. You can make money, you can gain secrets. Secrets is the second currency of the game. The game has a very smart economy system, where you can get money from 5 different currencies. So you might find a source of money, but it's gonna be depleted soon, because they're like from its currency there are like, I don't know, 5 or 6 or 7 coins or something like that. So then you need to find another source. You cannot just make money from the same source to infinity. And secrets is another currency where in a storytelling way the game tells you that you're learning secrets from the from the kingdom's people, and you can use them as currency, which is something very nice and thematic, I think, in this game. It's a fantasy game based in a fantasy world, and the problem, I think, or the some people say the nice thing about this game is the winning condition. I don't know how can I mean, you can see that this guy have worked before for Phil Eklund and all these complicated winning mechanisms. So in Oath,
this is the designer of John Company and Root, right? And
exactly.
Yeah.
So in order to win this game, you need to be the Oath Keeper. The Oath Keeper could be a different person in the beginning. Usually it's the king. If the king is the Oath Keeper in the end of the 4th round, he rolls a dice, and if it's a 6, he wins the game. Otherwise, the game goes on for the 5th round, and then he needs to roll a 5 or a 6. Otherwise, it keeps on for the 5th round, and then it's the end of the game. But if the king wins, and at the same time a citizen has the darkest secret, which is a special card in the game, then the citizen wins instead of the king.
Yeah, this is already making my head hurt. Yeah.
No, wait, that's just the beginning.
I think we should stop. All right, go ahead.
Because if a rebel is the Oath Keeper, then she needs to maintain the condition for a full round. But as I said, that never happened in my 6-player games, because somebody somebody will try to stop you, and it's usually easy if 2 people are against you in a war game like this. They can stop you. It reminds me of Root in the way that the battles are resolved, where you roll some dice, but it's not really very important. The numbers, it's basically the right moment to decide when you want to do the battle. And the first time I played this game, I remember a friend of mine, Noel, won. And when the game finished, after we were playing like 5 or 6 hours, he said that the game is so random that it's not a game, and he doesn't want to play this game again.
Wow.
Yeah, he made these harsh comments about the game, and the game, is trying to create a story and a legacy. So the winner needs to write in a book in the game the story of what happened in this game, and what happened in this game becomes the setup for the next game. Which is very nice. I mean, you keep the locations that you used, and some, you add some cards, and you're using the same deck of cards that you used in the previous game, but you add some, so it's not a completely new deck. You don't need the same players, no.
Okay, that's good.
That's good, because you cannot do that.
I was going to say, that sounds nice in concept, but getting the same 6 players again consistently.
No, but you have the feeling of continuity, where before starting the new game, you are reading what the king wrote in the previous game. So, and this gives you, the feeling, the setup for the new game.
Totally.
So it has this legacy aspect. So what I'm feeling about this game is that we're playing it wrong. We have the wrong mentality. We're just trying to win the game. I feel that this game is basically an RPG.
So like we talked about with John Company, like if you see it as a role-playing game, then certain aspects of the game feel better, right? Whereas if you're just trying to win or king make or whatever it is, you're sort of taking away from the beauty of the game.
Man, I just realized that you put the seeds of this thought in my mind. Because you said this about John Company, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
so maybe that's just a good way to approach his games in general.
I'm not sure.
I mean, Pax Pamir doesn't have that at all. So
I'm enjoying John Company, even if I play as the the dry person that just tries to win the game.
Sure, that's true.
I'm not feeling the same with Oath. I feel Oath, you need to perceive the game from this RPG aspect. At least, again, I'm gonna say it again that I'm talking about a 6-player game.
Sure.
Maybe for a smaller count, it's gonna be completely different, but this is my take. Yeah. And since I had this thought, I'm now excited to play the game again and see how that will work.
Very cool. So, I've never tried it, but it does seem interesting. I liked Root well enough. The exhausting thing for Root for me was, having to teach it. So like, if everyone came prepared, it's a much better game. But it was never like a top game for me. I traded you my copy, I think. Oath would look good. I think it was on my list for a minute of things I wanted, but in the end, I just kind of decided against it.
It's not so asymmetric as Root. Is the basic problem with teaching this game is the winning conditions. I mean, I feel that when I was describing the winning conditions, I probably have made like a couple of mistakes, even now.
And my eyes glazed over and rolled backwards into my head while you were doing that.
I mean, I'm not sure if I described the winning conditions correctly, even now, having played the game 4 times. Okay. So that was Oath, Chronicles of Empire and Exile.
Interesting. Okay, cool. I also recently played a game that I think you've played as well. I played Heat, Pedal to the Metal. Now that Formula One has been up and running for the last couple months, we've been excited about racing, so we got Heat to the table. It's a game by Asger Harding Granerud and Daniel Skold Pedersen from Days of Wonder 2022. Gorgeous art by Vincent Dutré, as usual.
Hey, when is the Canadian Grand Prix?
Canadian, I'm not sure. I know Baku is in like 2 weeks, but
There's one in Montreal, right?
yeah, I'll check. I'm not going to it. Anyway,
No, I
it's
meant
much more. It's
maybe
way
this
better
was-
to watch Formula One on TV than to go
or just play Hit.
or just play Heat. Yeah, which might tell you my thoughts on it, by the way. So it's a racing game. But the game is really at its core a management of like overheating your engine, when you want to push things, when you don't want to push things. We played a championship. We played the 1961
nice.
championship. So that means it had all the features of the game, which is setting up your car, sponsorships, press corner, all that stuff, other than the AI drivers. We didn't use any of the AI drivers. And yeah, we played the championship. You know, we had press corner, where like one of the corners is where all the press are hanging out. So if something spectacular happens there, you get more sponsorships. So whenever anyone would do something spectacular through that corner, we'd play on YouTube the sounds of like paparazzi camera noises, like taking pictures of that corner. Basically, we just ended up doing a ton of Formula One jokes, like through most of the game. You know, like in the first race, I was in pole position. I didn't realize how aggressive people were going to be coming off the line, so I just immediately fell into last position. And I was like, "It's all right. I'm going to pull a Checo. I'm going to go from last to first." You know, lots of jokes of like Gunther Steiner calling Gene Haas and being like, "Oh, we look like a bunch of wankers," you know. Pierre Gasly is the only racer that can make a Red Bull look like an AlphaTauri and an AlphaTauri look like a Red Bull. Anyway, but my favorite thing that everyone just kept saying over and over again was to be staring at their hands for a while, and this includes me, and then just look up and be like, "Fuck it, what's the worst that could happen?" And many times the worst things did happen. Like you need to not pull a 4, and you pull a 4, right? But you know, so there's a bit of a luck, a push your luck element to the game. So you take on stress, and when you take on stress, that means when you play a stress card, you're pulling cards out of the deck, so you don't know what you're going to get. You can guess based on what you've already played out of your deck, but you can't really know for sure. And the amazing thing about it is a lot of times people spun out or, had to pay a bunch of heat because they went through a corner too fast, but it never truly made anyone upset. And this got me thinking about this luck system versus the luck system we were talking about in the last episode with John Company, where you roll dice, and why that makes me so upset, but this one doesn't. And I think it's because you get to choose when to push your luck, right? Like, it gives you agency. If you want to, you could play the whole game super safe and just never push your luck, and you'll make it to the end, but you won't win, because that's not what racing is. Racing is about trying. What did Senna say?
Wow,
if you
that's
see a gap and you no
good
longer take
point.
it. So it felt like racing, because like at one point, this horrible corner, which only had a speed of 3, got a -1 condition. So it means you could only have a speed of 2 going through it, and it was coming off a straight. So it was a horrible corner. And I was first, and the way that it lined up, Chang just so happened to get what's it called? Slipstream from behind me and managed to cross the corner, only paying like 1 heat. So he was basically like a whole turn ahead of us, right? So when we finally got through the corner, I just had to give everything, and I chose to push my luck and say, like, if I crash, I crash. Like, if I spin out, I spin out. But like, I'm going for the win. You know what I mean?
That's a very good point. But may I argue in favor of my friend Cole Werler here, and say that you can do the same in John Company.
That's not
And
true. Everything requires dice rolling.
Yeah, but you can go very safe.
I did. I
And
went
bring
and paid a bunch of
ton
money to get
army.
Well, in John Company, I went safe. I paid a bunch of money, got 6 dice to roll, needing a single 1 or 2, and failed, right? That's how you go safe. There's always a possibility of failure. In this game, you can exclude the possibility of failure. If you just play cards that are to the right speed, you can choose basically never to have anything happen to you, but you'll lose. You'll always lose. So you have to take risks. It's the whole Senna thing. If you see a gap and you no longer go for it, you're no longer a race driver, right? So you got to go for the gaps and push your luck when you want to. But it gives you agency. It allows you to say, I'm choosing now potentially to fuck up, right? And that's great. When a game lets you choose when you want to have luck affect it, that gives you more agency. The one criticism I have of this game is there's no crashing. There's only spinning out. It's good in the sense that you can't be eliminated from the game, so there's no player elimination, but bad in the sense that that is a part of racing, right? So maybe they could have implemented it in some way, some sort of effect without removing you from the game.
Interesting.
Maybe having two racers or something, so it's like a Formula One team or whatever. And that's the thing, because it was so much like Formula One, I felt I was missing the crashes because they had all these little nods. Like, for example, Dima was like the yellow race car, and she was like, "Oh, Renault, I'm Renault. Who's yellow?" I'm like, "Renault." She's like, "I'm Renault," right? But then we looked at the number on the car, and it was 14, which is Fernando Alonso's number, who won his two championships with Renault. It's probably coincidental considering this is like set in the 1960s, but whatever, it's fun. And that's what I took away from the game. Is it felt like racing, like the idea of choosing when to push your luck, using other cars to get through slow corners with slipstreaming. And of course, when you pass a car with an awesome move and you're moving your car, you go vroom, and then it felt like racing,
the guys used this very nice mechanism of theirs from Flamme Rouge, the bicycle game in this, and they really did an excellent job. I mean, I love this game. I believe this is the best racing game out there right now.
That was my question for you. So I know you've played, we both played Grand Prix, the GMT game, and you played a bunch of Rallyman GT online when COVID first happened and we were playing games online. So I wanted to ask for your comparison between those and maybe even Flamme Rouge, because I've played Grand Prix, but this is way better than Grand Prix. Like it's just faster, but it's meaty enough to give you good decisions. Yeah, exactly. Grand Prix is way heavier, but it's slow and sluggish. Like this game is fast, feels like racing. So I really like that. What do you think?
I think that the main mechanism that makes the difference is that they simultaneously play. So that makes the game so fast, and at the same time, this is what you need from a racing game. You need a lot of players. You cannot play a 3-player game of racing. So when you have 5 or 6 players and they all need to play, if they need to play their own turn, then the game drags forever.
As Ippo was saying, like the first 2 phases basically select your gear, which lets you know how many cards you can play, and then selecting those cards from your hand. You all do that at the same time. And then, of course, you move your cars one at a time on the board. And there's like 2 mandatory steps, which are basically move your car, refill your hand. And there's a bunch of like optional steps in between that might apply or might not apply. You might get adrenaline because you're in last place. You might push your car a little more, which increases the risk factor. You might get a slipstream to get through corners. And so it just felt like a racing game. And I remember when we played like an 8-player game of Grand Prix at your place a few years ago, it took the whole day.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I have played tournament racing games. I have played Formula D, Grand Prix, and many others, and they always take days. They take days.
You played Rallyman GT though, right? That's the one I wanted you to compare it to, because that one is fast as well. So I was wondering which is the better game in your opinion.
Rallyman GT I played a lot in Board Game Arena. I have never played the physical copy. Rallyman GT I think comes second. Okay. Might be the second best game out there. And there is a new expansion that I have not played, and Rallyman
it's
GT
base game to base game. Yeah,
I would rather not compare it just because I have not played the physical game, so I don't know how much time it takes, what exactly is
to like fiddle with the dice and move them all the way around.
Yes, I don't know. Maybe it's good enough, but and comparing with the Flamme Rouge, Flamme Rouge is the basic mechanism of having, the deck and drawing the numbers out of the deck, and they really adjusted amazingly the mechanism to a Grand Prix Formula One racing game. They
But I really
have
love
done a great job.
I really love the aspect of managing the heat in your engine, right? Like if you push your car, the heat goes out of your engine into your discard, which eventually shows up in your hand and it clogs up your hand. So you need to shift down to lower gears so you can cool down your and put the heat back into your engine. And initially when I started, I thought of heat as a bad thing, but heat is a good thing because you want to have enough heat to be able to get through the corners, but you need them in your engine, not in your hand. So really,
and not too much heat.
Game. And not too much heat. Yeah, really an excellent game. I didn't think I'd like it. It's Days of Wonder and stuff. That's never been my favorite sort of thing, but genuinely had an amazing day. Maybe it's because we've been excited about Formula One and we've been playing Fantasy Formula One, but that might be the reason. Like, I think it was definitely elevated by the fact that it was with a lot of people from my Fantasy Formula One group. But all in all, lovely game. Highly recommend.
I have to be honest, there was one guy that didn't enjoy the Heat game. I remember when we played the tournament, he was telling me that these 3-2-1 thing that we were doing to play the card all together, he found that it was too fast for him. He wanted some time to think. And
what 3-2-1 thing to play a card?
Yeah, we did this because we were playing a tournament and this will take forever.
Oh my god!
And we said, okay, are you ready? Is everybody ready? Let's play. Just play your card. So,
but you're only supposed to reveal it in turn order. You don't have to reveal it all together. I guess you were playing it face down.
Yes. Yeah, we're playing face. I mean, but that's not part of the game. We just did it,
No, you guys fucked up the game a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So this guy, this friend of mine, Tony, he said that no, I don't like this. I felt a pressure the whole time, and I said, yeah, we ruined the game for you. I mean, we shouldn't do that, but I mean, it can happen.
But to be honest with you, like we did run a little long at some moments, Sometimes people took a long time to make decisions. So I understand why you would do that. But I'd love to play like all through all the campaigns and all the championships.
Oh, I would love that.
I'd also like to do the mode where you do all the championships together as a campaign, like to be like the greatest driver. It's so good. I can't. Don't ruin the game for people by putting a time limit. Just have a bit of patience.
Yes.
If they take too long, threaten them with a permanent ban from your group. Yeah,
if they wait too long, just go and play chess, guys.
Anyway, speaking of going through corners,
oh my god,
it's time for the Ippokratic corner.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say something like we need some fillers to fill the gaps in the corners or something.
No, it was way more obvious than that. Speaking of corners, it's time for the Hippokratic corner.
Yeah.
Hippokratic corner.
Guys, welcome to another Hippokratic corner, where we're gonna discuss a top 5 of our favorite games. The theme of this top 5 is top 5 filler games. And when we say filler games,
so hard. It was
for sure we're not going to describe what a filler game is, because that's part of the task that the hosts have to do.
It was so hard. It was so hard.
Tell me, what were your criteria on what is a filler for you?
I just want to point out that first I was only able to narrow it down to about 13 games.
Oh yeah, sorry. And let me clarify that we have decided the only thing that we have in common is that there should be games played in less than an hour.
Yes.
Okay, so this was...
Yeah, I used that criteria. So I had to keep adding criteria until I could narrow it down. And then I only got to about 9, but I just ordered them and picked my top 5. And I tore off the Band-Aid, and that's it. So obviously the first one being less than an hour, right? But also there are games that are less than an hour, but they feel very heavy, right? Like you can play a 2-player game of PAX Renaissance in less than an hour, but I wouldn't call it a filler, right? Or like Roll for the Galaxy or even Ginkopolis can be played in an hour as per BGG. I don't know. Roll for the Galaxy for sure, but still I felt like it's a meaty enough game, you know? The other thing is it should actually be less than 60 minutes, not as per BGG. So like I had games like
nice.
Galaxy Trucker, Tobago. These games take over an hour, and BGG says it takes under an hour, so I had to remove those. But also, I don't want it to be a party game. Like I had to exclude party games because games like Decrypto, Spyfall, The Mind was a stretch. I really wanted to include it. I feel like it's too simple. So I wanted somewhere between those two complexities. Not a party game that's kind of mindless, but not a heavy game that really takes up your mind. I also excluded 2-player games and solo games because I had to cut it down. So I was like, those are their own categories, you know, like we're not going to have 2-player games or solo. So like Onirim or Santorini, I had to remove those. So the last criteria I did to finally get my top 5 was it cannot be a game that I invite someone over to play. If I invite someone over to play that game, it's not a filler. So that's where I ended up with the criteria. What about you?
So we have we have a lot of common criteria. As you said, for me the context of a filler game is that maybe we're waiting one more player to play the main game for the night. So it shouldn't be a party game. It's like the 3 of us or the 4 of us waiting for the 5th or the 4th player to play something. So it shouldn't be a party game. It shouldn't be a 6 or 7 player game. It should be, as you said, less than 60 minutes according to the BGG. I made it maximum 50 minutes according to Board Game Geek.
Nice.
And I was close to say that I wanted to be less than an hour with teaching time.
Ooh, nice.
But because teaching time is not really objective, I mean, playing time is also not objective, but let's say it is according to Board Game Geek. So I excluded the teaching time in the 50 minutes, but I considered the teaching time in the ranking of my games.
I will say all of mine would be under an hour with teaching time. So
that's
I
a good thing.
I accidentally followed at least my top 5, not my honorable mentions.
So I was going to say that the mind fulfills my criteria because it's not a party. It's a 4-player game that you can play while waiting for somebody to come or something like that.
The only reason it fails my criteria is it falls into not a party game. I don't think it's a party game, but it's a party game level in terms of there's not a lot of
you want to be more
involved.
meaty. Okay.
Yeah. So I was like somewhere between the lightness of a party game and the heaviness of like a real game. Right. So that's where. What was your honorable mention? I'm sure you had one.
It's so funny because I do have an honorable mention, but I was going not to mention my honorable mention because I know that
I feel like
a joke
you have
now.
to at this point. Yeah, it's a meme at this point. Yeah, what's
it's
your
a joke now.
mention?
So it's funny because it was not in my intentions to mention this game. Anyway, it's Regicide. Have you played that?
I've never played that. No, you mentioned it last episode. But it sounded like, I've never heard of it.
It's a cooperative game. You can play it with a regular deck of cards, and there is an app in the phone that you can use to count points. It's a very nice game that you can teach really
thank you.
fast.
I'm too good to play games that use apps. Please, what are you talking?
It's not. It doesn't
I am above
use
that.
the app for any
That
other
is
reason.
beneath me.
Wait, it doesn't use the app for any other reason than to count the points. So if you have,
I'm kidding. I don't give a shit. You can use as much technology as you want.
Really?
I'm not a curmudgeon.
I am against the using apps in board games,
Yeah,
to be
but
honest.
you're really old, which is probably why.
That's true. Yeah. That's also true. I mean, but maybe after 80 years you will be like me.
Maybe.
Okay.
The maybe
What's
being
your
important.
What's your
I had four. I
number
had four.
five?
Four. Well, I had 4 honorable mentions, but I'm not going to mention them.
No, tell.
So-
Okay, you're gonna tell after the top 5. You're gonna tell us the honorable mention.
All right, fine. After my top 5, or probably when you mention them, I'll tell you it's been in my honorable mention.
Oh, okay.
All right, number 5, Red 7 was my number 5, which is a game by
Oh.
Carl Chudik. I mentioned it briefly when we had that flat tire on the way to the. Anyway, we didn't end up playing it. So Red 7 is a very interesting game. Basically, the only rule of the game is if you're not winning at the end of your turn, you're out of the round. And to win, you either have to meet the criteria that's set in the middle of the board, like whatever the winning condition is. You either have to meet that criteria or change the rules so that you meet that new criteria as the winner. And it's a very interesting concept because it twists your head in a different way. Like you have to manipulate it somehow to always be in your favor. And as you play more with people that know the game, you tend to want to you change the way you approach. You start looking at long term. So what am I going to have in my hand over the course of this round, as opposed to just how can I win? Then also, after I win this round, what cards are going to be now removed from the game and be part of the scoring cards? That becomes part of the strategy. But it's easily played and taught together under an hour. You can play 4 people. Great game to play after another game. It uses your mind, but it doesn't break your head. And I highly recommend Red 7. What do you think?
It's a really very good option. I think it's a very nice abstract game. I'm in the edge of liking it or finding it, intermediate. But
Sure.
it's a really good option as a filler. Really, I agree on that.
What's your number 5?
So going to my number 5, I want to give this disclaimer that my number 5 and number 4, I think they don't meet your criteria because I can totally see myself inviting friends at my house just to play these games. So, so this game is a Vlada Hvadvil's game that, according to Board Game Geek, is a 30 minutes game. It's a co-op that could be played with 4 or 5 players, and it's Space Alert.
Oh, nice.
So
that's Space Alert and Kitchen Rush are the reason I had to add the criteria of should not be somebody you invite to play the game, because
oh my God,
I couldn't
really?
remove them from. Yeah, I had Kitchen Rush and Space Alert, and I was like, I can't give 2 of my 5 to both because they would both be in my top 5. So I had to put that criteria in order to exclude them. So
that was
no argument from me.
Yeah, that was a great way out for you to get rid of Space Alert of this top 5. I couldn't.
I love it.
The only reason that is number 5 is, as I said before, because I considered for ranking purposes the teaching time, and you need if the other people don't know the game, it's not a filler anymore. You need to teach them the game. But if the other people know the game, it's the greatest. How do we call these games? Live
Real
action?
time.
Real time. Yes, real time.
I will say it's another one of those that half the people we play with really hate this game. Like it's like studying Emerald and Tramways. Like half of us adore them and half of us hate them. So if you remember, me, you, and Dima love Space Alert, but Ricardo hates it. Hamad hates it. Lena, I don't know. I think she was just more annoyed with you because when you play Space Alert with Ippo, you all agree on something and then he just does his own thing.
Yes, he wanted to win. That's the problem. You don't need to win this game. You just enjoy the ride.
So the thing of this game is it's like there's like a soundtrack playing. You get under attack. Your ship is falling apart, and you need to like keep things together. And so you're planning like, okay, Ippo, you grab the battery and meet me at the elevator. I'll take the battery, take it down, and put it into the shield. And like you've made this whole plan, so you've done your part. You've gone up the elevator, and then Ippo's just gone in the other direction.
Okay, but
And
that's
then
not
you
on
go up
purpose.
for because it's a programming game, and that's what I think makes it the best, like such a good game,
Yeah.
is the fact that you've programmed this in. You've gone up the elevator and you're waiting to collect
Man,
it and go back down, but then
man.
Ippo never shows up. So
No, it's because I suck in real-time games. That's why I never played video games. I mean, I only play turn-based video games like Civilization. I don't play
fair enough,
World of Warcraft.
but it's still in your top 5 because you like the chaos of it, right? That's the
Yes, because I don't mind losing when I play with friends because it's so funny what's happening. As you said, because we discussed meet me in the elevator. Where are you? And the aliens are coming and they're shooting at us. And you have this deck
amazing.
of cards, and you need to place I think 10 cards one next to the other. So that's your actions for the round. And we all reveal at the same time afterward. I mean, it's such a great design. So that's my number
if
5.
I had to include those, they would be my 3 and 4, Kitchen Rush and Space Alert. Like I really love them, but they're out.
Again, it's only number 5 because I'm considered the teaching time, and it's Space Alert, number 5.
Number 4, my number 4 is Parade, which is a game I talked about a bunch. So I love Parade. So Parade is this, like, it's set in like Alice in Wonderland. You have a parade happening, and then basically you're playing cards, which are characters, to the back of the parade. And when you add them to the back of the parade, you end up collecting a certain number of cards based on certain conditions. And you want to have the least points possible. And the cards you collect are positive points, and you don't want positive points. I just keep thinking about this game. When we were at the cabin, the owner of the cabin was this pretty creepy dude that showed up at our cabin at like 1 a.m. when we were playing an 18xx game, banged on the door. When we opened the door, he's like, "Why are you locking the door?" And we're like, "So weirdos like you don't show up at 1 a.m." Anyway, he came over and stood over my shoulder like a weirdo. And while we were playing Parade, and he goes, I once played a game of Parade where I got 0 points. And so now, every time we play Parade and somebody takes a card, we're like, "Oh, you need to go talk to Steven so he can teach you how to be good at Parade." Anyway, it's an amazing
guy
game.
had played Parades.
Oh, no, he's a board gamer. So he hosts the board game thing, the whole cabin site. All the cabins are rented out to board gamers, and we all play board games together. That's how it works. But in the main house, they have several tables where you can go and meet and play. But the last time we played it, I started so poorly. Like, I got no big cards, no like 8, 9s, or 10s. So everybody was just skipping the whole parade, and I was not. And so I ended up collecting a whole bunch, and then somehow I ended up winning the games because, like, there was kind of a twist and everything, and I was complaining. Maybe people felt sorry for me. So at the end of it, Carol was like, "Oh, he's going to complain the whole time and then win the game."
Typical Elias.
Yeah, exactly. So we had a great time. I always have a good time with Parade. I know you probably don't like it as much as I did. It was between Parade and Arboretum for me. Arboretum is also excellent and just as harsh, but I like Parade a little more because, one, it takes less table space, so it isn't like you don't need the whole table for it. And 2, I've just played Parade a lot more than Arboretum, so that's why Parade made it.
I liked Arboretum so much, but I didn't like Parade. I have played it, I think, only once, so I can give some credit.
Maybe you got to play it again.
Yeah. So I won't say anything against this game.
What's your number 4?
Let's go to my number 4, and imagine what? It's Kitchen Rush.
It's so funny. I was just thinking, I can't believe he put Space Alert above Kitchen Rush. Like, I would have taken Kitchen Rush. And then the guy goes, "Okay, number 4 is Kitchen Rush." Yeah, I agree. It's amazing. Enough said.
Yeah, so they're both amazing. The Kitchen Rush, according to Board Game Geek, is a 45 minutes game. It's best with 4 players, and it's like Space Alert, a real-time cooperative game. where players are in a kitchen and they're trying in real time to prepare dishes and fulfill the orders from that are coming through a deck of cards. The game is so much fun. I have
no argument. Like, it would have been my number 3. That one and Space Alert would have knocked off Parade and Red 7 if I didn't do my exclusion. So, yeah.
Again, the only reason that these games are in number 4 and 5 is because I consider that teaching time might not suit them for a filler game.
Okay.
So that
I love it.
That's my number 4.
I think the theme is better than Space Alert, and I would even say the gameplay is better than Space Alert. But Space Alert has more of like the ability for chaos to happen, which is because it's a programming game. Kitchen Rush is not a programming game, but it's phenomenal. It's charming and it's excellent. So no argument for me.
By Vangelis Bagartakis, the Hegemony designer.
Amazing that he did both of those games. All right, number 3. My number 3 is Biblios.
Oh, nice.
So I think we always used to joke that Biblios is the game that Martin Wallace should have designed.
I don't remember that. Why?
We used to make that joke, like, oh, is this a Martin Wallace game? No, like, we just kept it going. Anyway, Biblios is like, I don't know what the theme is. You're a bunch of monks that are arranging books. I don't really know. But basically, it's a very clever game where basically every turn you got to pull 4 cards from a deck. And of the 4 you pull, which you're pulling one at a time, you have to take one for yourself. You look at them privately first. Actually, you keep it private. You take one for yourself. You put 2 to be available for the other players because it's a 4-player game. Well, actually, it's not 4 cards. It depends on the number of players. So in a 3-player game, you would take 1 card. You would put 2 cards for other people to then draft based on turn order. And then the last card you would put into a pile for a future auction. But you're doing this one at a time, so you're kind of pushing, like, do I want this card? Is this okay to give to other people? Like, you know, or like, am I gambling? And you don't have to do it in any order. So you can give up first or you can take first, but then something way better could come. So it's very clever. And then at the end of that, you enter phase 2 of the game where you take that deck where you've all put auction cards, and then you auction out those cards, and people can pay cards from the cards they've collected over the game. They can pay money to buy books, or they can pay books to get money and then again use that money to get other books to basically set collect. It doesn't sound that exciting when I'm saying it like that, but the decision, the push your luck decision of, do I want to keep this card or do I think I can get something better, coupled with how to approach the auction. Like, it's a solid auction by itself at the end of the game, but it's just the end part of a really good push your luck game. And I really love it. It was one of the most played fillers in our group in Qatar. And honestly, I'm always ready for a game of Biblios. I do think it's a very well-designed game that's always a good time. So that's it. Number 3, Biblios.
I want to say about Biblios that it's really... I love auction games, basically. It's really, as you said, not something exciting. I mean, I don't remember it as an exciting process playing Biblios, but I remember it as the typical filler game. I mean, every time we had some time and we needed to fill that time, let's bring Biblios. Biblios was the game to play.
Yeah.
So I will give that to Biblios. Okay, great. Let's go to my number 3. My number 3 is Flamme Rouge.
What? You just picked games. You just picked full games, I think. Like,
wait,
you could
Flamme
totally have
Rouge
someone over to...
Flamme Rouge is actually a 45 minutes game according to BGG, and you can really teach it in 5 minutes. That's the good thing about it. That's why I believe Space Alert and Kitchen Rush can stay in number 4 and 5, and Flamme Rouge is one on top because you can really use it as a filler. So you have the basic mechanism of heat that you just described before.
You should have gone for like 30 minutes as a cap for for filler. I feel like it's pretty long. Like these games are pretty long. Like I wouldn't consider them fillers, but that's my opinion. I don't know. I've never played Flamme though, so
Yeah, as you, I mean, if it's not an objective thing, so I use the numbers from BGG, so we can argue forever about the numbers, and you might be right, of course. But as a 45-minute game where you can really teach it easily and just say, okay, you draw a card and you move that. And if you are behind, you are using the air, so you're now in front of the other riders. It's a great racing game, and you can use it as a filler, I believe. So you have never played it. It's you should play it just to make the comparison with Heat, I think.
Okay. I mean, yeah, it helps that Heat is race cars. Like the bicycle thing, I guess like my least favorite part I think of Heat is the slipstreaming. Like it's fine, it's good. It's just it's not that exciting. Like I like the hand management of the Heat and stuff. So I would love to play it. I'm not gonna buy it. So that's
no, you don't need to buy it. Just find somewhere a friend.
I respect your decision, and again, I have to say that we're both making completely different lists, which is excellent. And you're welcome for 2 separate lists again. That's 4 lists in 2 episodes. Anyway, number 2.
Let's see if they're completely
my number
different
2
lists.
Is Shipwreck Arcana.
Oh.
So Shipwreck Arcana is a co-op deduction game. And, you have certain, basically, the theme again is weird as shit, but basically you have a bunch of rules that come to the table, and then everyone will pull 2 fate tiles, and then they'll play 1 fate tile face up onto one of the rules, and then based on deduction and even inductive reasoning to a certain extent, you will then should be able to over time decide or determine as a group what that other fate tile is. And it's really excellent because if you approach this game with a base level of like, it's deduction, you will lose. I promise you. Like it's next level deduction. You cannot just place the token and be like, why did he place it on this card? You also have to think, why didn't he or she place it on all the other cards instead? And it's that kind of reasoning that really gets me. And if you play it properly, where the person isn't giving you any hints, which, I hate when that happens, it's challenging, difficult, and you can adjust the difficulty to the point that a single mistake would be the end of the game, which is my favorite way of playing it. So highly recommend Shipwreck Arcana. You can definitely play it well under probably half an hour is where you're at. And it's honestly like a masterpiece in deduction, and it's beautiful too, which helps.
Shipwreck Arcana for me is a mind-blowing design, is an ingenious, I think, design. Last week I was searching the internet to see if I can buy it from somewhere. I really need a copy of this game, and I really know I have like a mathematician friend here and some other friends that I really believe they're gonna enjoy so much this game. I mean, it's one of the games I miss.
AK has it.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've had access to a copy all this time.
Okay, yeah. Let me make a note. Shipwreck Arcana it is. Okay, so I couldn't agree more on Shipwreck Arcana. I think the reason that it's not in my top 5 is that according to BGG, it's a 60 minutes game, and I tried to have a 50 or less. That's the only reason it didn't make
I
it
don't
to
think
my
I've ever
list.
played the game for an hour, but okay.
So my number 2 is I guess a replacement to your Biblios game, and it's High Society.
I played that. I didn't like it.
Really? It's an auction game like Biblios. It's a Rainer Knizia game. It's a 30 minutes game. It reminds me of
Sorry, that's what we used to say. That Biblios should have been a Reiner Knizia game, not a Martin Wallace game. Apologies.
Okay, it makes sense
All
now.
right, go ahead.
So I wanted an auction game as a filler game, and I was thinking modern art also, which is also a Reiner Knizia game. I went with High Society as a 3 to 5 players bidding game. You bid against each other to get some cards that are representing various valuable things. So these cards are positive numbers and multipliers.
Okay.
And at the same time, you're trying to avoid getting negative numbers and divisor cards. So the funny thing is that while bidding, you should keep an eye on your remaining cards, because at the end of the game, the player with the least money isn't even considered for victory. So even if you have the most victory points, even in the end, and if in the end of the game you don't have, you have the least money, you're out of the game. And this makes the game so funny and strange, and at the same time is a fast game. And I believe it has all the good qualities of Biblios. I'm not sure why I prefer this over Biblios. I guess it's faster.
Maybe. Yeah, it's pretty fast. Do you have a copy?
And more straight. No.
Do you want my copy?
I'm not sure if Byron. You have a copy?
Yeah, I got it in a trade.
Oh, why?
I got it in a trade. I got the new edition. I got it. I traded something for Pax Viking and High Society, and we played it a couple times, and it's not really working with us. So
Didn't click.
you want it?
Okay.
It's yours.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
All right.
I respect your choice.
I'm not gonna mail it to you because that will then cost like $1,000. But I'll put it on the side for you for whenever you come. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
All right.
the spirit.
It's yours. I'll make a note of it. Number 1.
So, what's your number 1?
You want to guess?
Do we have any crossovers? Well, I cannot guess. I was thinking you're gonna put somewhere like some more meaty games like Race for the Galaxy or Roll for the Galaxy. Or
No,
something.
I removed
But
those.
now that you're so we might have the same number 1.
Well, no, I
would
think
say, if it's deduction.
I think your number 1 is Cryptid, which is my honorable mention.
Is it a deduction game?
It's an induction game.
Wow.
My number 1
So
is Zendo.
it's the same.
You pick Zendo? I love this game. Like every time Zendo comes out, I try to think about the fact that what we must look like playing with a bunch of colored blocks and squeezing our head and like having like wrinkles on our forehead and like we must look ridiculous. Like like imagine a bunch of kids stacking blocks on top of each other and then just staring at it. Because that's what it is, right? So Zendo is a game where one person is the master every round, and they have a card that gives them a rule, and then they have to build a structure that is true to that rule and a structure that is false to that rule. And then on everyone's turn, they build a structure. They can either choose to build a structure and be like, does this follow the rule? And then the master says, it has Buddha nature or it does not have Buddha nature. And then, and you collect these like guess tokens, and you can submit the guess tokens to make a guess, right, of what the rule is. But the reason I adore Zendo, every time we start the game, usually there's a new player or whatever, we start with easier ones, we teach them the game. Then we go to the hard ones right away. And by the end of the game, nobody gives a shit about winning or getting the points. Everyone is working together to figure out these rules. We all being like,
to figure out what the fuck is going on here.
Zendo is an incredible game. I don't know what to say. I love this game. To me, it's the best filler ever made. What about you?
So I did the spoiler. It's my number 1 too. I prefer this over Cryptid. which is another great. I love Cryptid. It's another great deduction game. But yeah, we had so much fun playing Zendo. Exactly. I mean, just looking at other people's eyes, trying to figure out what the fuck is going on in this game. What is this law that governs these pieces of block?
Yeah.
And one confession I have to make is that I think the first 2 times we played the game, you were saying, does this game has a, how do you call it, Buddha
This
nature?
is a Buddha nature, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember me driving home and I was thinking, what's Buddha nature? I thought it was one word, Buddha nature. What's that? I thought it was like a term of the game, like we're just trying to find the Buddha nature. With that, we don't know what it is.
That's just an extra element of theme to throw on there. But no, it's genuinely a masterpiece. And yeah.
It's so funny that the game is at the same time so serious.
Yeah.
It's an abstract game that you're trying to find the what is governing, the laws.
The governing law.
And at the same time, it's so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, how
It's just
maybe
blocks.
it was our group playing like that. Maybe it's not for everybody.
I don't know. I think that game's about, like, the idea of, like, you have, like, yellow rectangles, cones, and what's the other? And then blue and then red also. And then you're just building a 3D structure. Then over time, there's like 7 3D structures built out onto the board. And then everyone's staring at it going like, what the fuck? My favorite was when the person would build one really complex structure and say, this follows the rule. And then for the other one, they would put like one red block. Boop. This doesn't follow the rule. And you're like, fuck you, man, give me more information.
So what we have done here with this game group is we have played Eleusis, Eleusis. It's a game that you can play with a deck of cards where there is one player that comes up with a rule and the sequence of cards should comply with this rule. So the players around, each one of them, they play a card on the table, creating a sequence. And if the played card does not comply, you take it back. So you're trying to find the rule that in order to get rid of all of your cards.
That's very cool.
It's a very old game. It's a very old concept. And of course, Zendo is doing it really better. But this is our, for now, this is our
it's great. It's great.
Zendo.
I just looked it up and it looks super cool. You know, and I love games like that. But like, you know, the problem with Zendo, the only problem is I bring it out. It's rattling like a box of toys. I put it on the table. It's a bunch of like bricks.
Exactly.
And people don't believe me that this is going to break their brain. You know what I mean? It looks like a toy.
It looks silly. It looks like a toy of my kids. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So since we didn't talk about them, the 2 we didn't get to my honorable mentions were Cryptid and King Domino. I thought King Domino was an excellent game. So.
Oh, King Domino could make it. Yeah, you're right. That's a very good suggestion.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. That was amazing. We did have one crossover eventually.
Yeah, the most important one, the number 1. So.
The most important one. For our listeners out there, please don't forget to let us know what your top 5 fillers are over at our Board Game Geek Guild. If you don't know what that is, I don't know. I mean, just go to Board Game Geek and
it's in our description.
Google,
People, you're confusing everybody more. The link.
It's in our description, you morons. Of course, I mean me, moron.
So that brings us to
I'm sorry.
the end of this tabletop session. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Tabletop Sessions, where I post pretty terrible pictures with pretty terrible captions. Join the conversation and let us know what your top 5 was this month over at our Board Game Geek Guild. You can find the link to both of these in the episode description. We'll be back in a month. And until then, to quote one of my favorite writers, God damn it, you've got to be kind. Say bye, Ippo.
Bye-bye, guys.
And to be clear, Say Bye, Ippo is not part of that quote by Kurt Vonnegut. So.
Tabletop top. Tabletop, tabletop, tabletop top. Tabletop, tabletop, tabletop top. Session.
And I'm gonna argue that your photos are nice.
Well,
They're good
compared
photos.
to yours,
You
everyone's
can
photos are nice. So it's.
I blame my camera.